All right, we were on the blessing of vestments, number 141. So the priest who has the required faculties, again, it belongs to the bishop, as everything that pertains to the Mass belongs to the bishop, but he gives out faculties to do these things. So, again, FEK is king, because the local ordinary doesn't answer his phone. So, it's in the Roman ritual. This formula is to be used when either one or more vestments are to be blessed, and no change is to be made in the formula on account of the number. So you see, in blessings, if you're blessing many rosaries, as I said to you, you have to do plurals. You have to figure out the plurals. We're going to exercise you in that, so that even the relative pronouns have to agree. Instead of que, you have quas, or instead of que, you have quos. So you have to do all of that in your head as you're reading it. Do that in baptisms too. If you're baptizing a number of babies, all of that goes into the plural. In some rituals, they'll give you the plural. So you have to know your Latin. If perchance the celebrant is in good faith, has used vestments which were never blessed, the obligation of blessing them is not thereby withdrawn. They should nevertheless be blessed. Okay? So you still have to bless them even if somebody used them unblessed. According to van der Stappen, vestments lose their blessing in the following ways. One, when they are so torn and lacerated that they are no longer fit to serve their purpose. So that's what happens to vestments. Typically what wears out first is the maniple, because it's brushing up against you like this, and right here, because you're like this all the time, right in front. And it's very sad because the rest of the vestment might be in really good shape, and there's nothing to do but to throw it out, burn it. So it's because usually you can't find the same cloth to make the pieces again. Nothing to do with it. It's a garment, and every garment wears out. So you shouldn't be wearing vestments that are torn or seriously worn out. I mean, you might get a little place here and there, but you shouldn't be wearing rags at the altar. Two, when the form which they had at the time of their blessing has been changed. This may happen, A, when for the sake of repairing them, one principal part has been separated from another. For example, separating the sleeve from the alb, the front part of the chasuble from the back, when the cincture is so torn that neither part can serve the purpose. And B, when from one vestment others are made, for example, amices from the alb. All right, so that's when they lose their blessing. 3, when in repairing vestments, the quantity of the new parts added exceeds that of the old. So sometimes you can repair a section, etc. So if you're repairing more than you're leaving, then you have to bless it again. Vestments do not lose their blessing when the lining or accessories have been removed or renewed. The chalice. The chalice should be made of gold or silver, or the cup at least should be of silver and gold plated on the interior. Only once have I seen a solid gold chalice in my whole life. It was very nice. Most are made of, well, not most. Many are made of all silver. All the nice ones, well, I shouldn't say that either. Almost all of the nice ones are made of all silver. That silver is usually not sterling. Sterling is 0.999. it says sterling, that means it's almost pure silver. Most European chalices are 800 silver. So but typically English and American chalices will be in sterling. So if they're stamped sterling, that means it's 0.999. All right. You'll see this typically 800 on certain chalices. Then you also see the sterling mark on European chalices. So that means the silver mark, where each country would have its own silver mark. So in 1812, France put that lady, Marianne, on it. So it's a stamp right in it. And so that's how you can tell that's what you look for right away. Because it was the law that anything that came apart, if two things would come apart, each had to be stamped. Okay, so if it's not stamped, sometimes you have true silver that is not stamped. It's rare though. But you can almost tell by feeling it. The silver is a very fine metal. Brass, less so. So, but I'd say in 99% of the cases you have some indication that it's silver. And also in France, they would stamp the person who made it or the company that made it. So and you can look on the internet, there's all the signs, some of them have birds and they have different various symbols. So that's how you can tell what something is made of. The paten too, it'll have those things. All right. But sometimes you get a brass base and a silver cup. That's perfectly okay. But you would have them typically gold plated or silver plated. But Germany had it, for example, you can tell the age of the chalice too by those stamps. It's all on the internet. Germany had its own, it's like a little half moon, and then the German crown, the Prussian. And then the Italians, well, they had their little principalities. So you see like Piedmont, and you have to know the various places of the origin. So, but that's a whole other thing, chalices. So, platinum, since it is one of the most precious of metals, is a fitting and becoming material from which chalices may be made. So platinum it's not a very nice metal. I don't know why it's so expensive. In some cases, more expensive than gold. Gold, I think, is higher than platinum right now. But it's like a crummy silver. It's a dull silver. I don't think much of it. It doesn't tarnish, though. But I've never seen a platinum chalice. Chalices made of aluminum bronze are permitted, provided their cups are properly silver and gold plated. So it's always the silver cup. So you can have an aluminum bottom or bronze bottom. Bronze meaning brass. Brass and bronze are the same thing. It's just they differ only by the amount of alloy. The tin and so forth that's alloyed with them, and bronze has more of something, and brass has more of something else. So they're both the same. Bronze is the darker brownish kind of metal. Brass is the one that is shiny and yellow. Chalices whose cups are made of copper or brass, although they are properly gold-plated on the interior, are nevertheless forbidden, and such may not be consecrated. So if you have a non-silver cup, you cannot use that. Now that apparently was relaxed after the war, I'm guessing, because you see a lot of chalices in the 50s that are all brass without the silver cup. And they were, again, commonly sold, commonly used. There was a thing in the past that, I don't think they do it anymore, but if someone would die, you would give a memorial chalice with the person's name on it to the church. Please, you see sometimes, please pray for, John Smith. Well, the church got overwhelmed with those things because people would buy cheap ones. So they wouldn't go out and buy something for $10,000. They would go to the local store who would be very happy to sell them something for, $100 at that time or something like that, and engrave it, and they'd give it to the church. Well, the priests all have their own chalices. So those would build up, and they really serve no purpose. But typically those are the ones that come through, as you see chalices are given or they move around. They have non-silver cups, and really there's nothing to do but to bury them. Or you could drill a hole in them and throw them out. You drill a hole in the cup. That means it's useless. It loses consecration.
So it's not permissible to use those, Your Excellency?
No. You can use them for a dry mass, for practicing.
So was it always illegal, their usage in the past?
Yes, but I'm guessing that it was relaxed, in the 50s, because you see these 50s chalices that way. They would not have been made that way unless the bishops or somebody relaxed that rule.
But I guess it was just a temporary relaxation.
Not necessarily. Then it went into Vatican II. That was the 50s already. But you don't see ones before World War II like that. It seemed to be after the war. The war made for a lot of shortages. And so things were permitted during the war and then never rescinded, like the nylon and all of the things, all the synthetics that had to be made during the war. That's what I'm guessing.
So it seems that it might be possible to use them.
No. Oh, I see what you mean. In other words, that it was permitted before Vatican II? Perhaps. I would never use it. I would drill a hole in it. Or else give it to some deacon and you can use it for your dry masses. It just seems improper. It's a cheap thing. And, vestments were cheapened in the 50s, especially in this country where the pastors, I may have told you this before, the pastors had the right to all of the money collected. But they also had to pay for the upkeep of the church. And they could keep anything above and beyond what they collected and what they spent for the upkeep of the church. Well, then the cheap chalice becomes very, very attractive, and the cheap vestment becomes very, very attractive because he's going to get rich. Yes.
Your Excellency, this morning in your Mass, the chalice you were using, do you remember it?
Yes.
I've always wondered about the design. The cup is incredibly wide. It looks more like when I saw it, I thought, is that a ciborium? But what design is that then? Do you know?
That's the Romanesque style.
That's Romanesque.
Or it's also called Roman, but really it's Romanesque. If you went to a medieval museum, you would see that style.
Yes.
It's medieval, early medieval. And it's just one of the styles. You see a number of those. Those are floating around. That's a traditional style of chalice.
The ones where the cup is a lot more narrow, the ones you usually see here, are they Gothic? Is that what you'd call Gothic?
No, that's tulip style. That's the typical French Baroque copy. You see that's tulip. Then you have the Gothic is usually like this, and then the Romanesque is a bowl. So those are your three types: Baroque or Neo-Baroque. There was a ton of those made in France during the 19th century. I can't believe how many you see. Auctions, Fluminalis, there's a flood of those things. And they must have had factories where people were putting them out. So some are better than others, some Some are hand chased. Hand chased means that somebody sits with a little pick and does all the stuff like this. They just get a sheet and then they work it, and that's hand chased. That is considered, in principle, better than a cast statue. Cast means they pour it, they make a mold, they pour the mold, they put the silver in, and then they work what comes out. In other words, what comes out is kind of rough, and they work it, and they come out very nice. They're beautiful. But the hand chased is generally, of the two, considered better. But you could get a better, it depends on who chased what, and some of them are not very well done, and some are, The first thing you can tell is look under the chalice. This is a little. Whenever you're looking to buy a chalice, look underneath first, and you'll know whether it's cast or hand chased. If it's light, it's hand chased. If it's heavy, it's usually it's cast. Yes.
And Your Excellency, in regards to purifying those kinds of chalices, which one do you find is the easiest to purify during the making?
The one I had today.
That's the easiest one.
Oh, absolutely. No, the tulip chalices, they're pretty, but they are not very practical. Usually prettiness and practicality do not go together, all right? They are pretty, but they you have to get your hand down way in to clean them, and they don't drink very well either. That's the only way I can put it. In other words, the way the fluid goes into your mouth is a little bit awkward. The Gothic and the bowl style are better for that.
Yes, that was something I was particularly wondering: is the consumption of the precious blood? Yeah. What would be easier?
Well, it's no problem in it. It's just that it's not. It's more concerned about design than it is, or beauty than it is about practicality. So, to each his own. But those are effectively the three types. I can't think of any other kind. This is all the modern garbage, but I don't think you want that. Yes?
What do the Nova Sorta use? I've never
Junk, garbage, things that you would not feed a cat with, They have relaxed. They used to permit glass, but they don't permit that anymore. Clay, ceramic. Then they have some precious metal stuff, but it's usually this stuff. That's the top, and then it goes down like this, and then there's a bottom. It's a big wide top, and then it's like that. It looks hideous. It's just hideous. Or you get this. This was very popular in the 60s. A huge bowl, and then this. A really big bowl, and that. I remember I was in Rome, and there was this shop that was selling chalices that I wandered into, and then a deacon came in, an American deacon, and they brought out this thing. And he thought, oh, this is so beautiful. Oh, it came out so nice. They did it custom made for him. Probably cost a fortune. And I'm looking at that thing and I'm thinking, who would buy that piece of junk? But they were just, they thought it was so nice. That was when Paul VI was supposed Pope. And everything was modern. He loved modern art, Paul VI. And the whole trend, you walked around Rome, it was all that modern stuff. Then with JP2, it started to look a little better. And then with Benedict, it became a lot of traditional stuff was available. But under Paul VI was terrible. Yeah.
Have you seen Bishop Fulton Sheen's chalice?
I've seen pictures of it.
What do you think of that?
I wouldn't buy it.
No.
It just doesn't please me. I don't think it's necessarily horrible or anything, but it's just.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was very expensive. It was very well worked, but it doesn't appeal to me. That's all.
Do you know what the material is?
You have it there.
understand what I'm looking at.
It looks like silver with a gold on top of it. In other words, there's a gold, I don't know what you call it, decoration that is applied to the silver. So it's certainly solid silver with solid gold, knowing, don't forget he was on television. He had a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think that's available for sale if you're thinking about that. But that's a
Is it stone?
kind of no.
It doesn't look like silver. It has a mottled effect, like it's some other material.
No, that would have to be silver. No, he was active in the 30s and the 40s and all. No, that has to be silver. You're just looking at a crummy picture of it. So. Are you eating something?
I have a cough drop.
Oh, okay. Psych. The base of the chalice may be made of any metal provided it is solid and becoming. So sometimes you see brass bottoms on chalices, which are fine. Those chalices cannot be accepted which are less than 16 centimeters, which is 6 inches tall, or more than 28 centimeters, 11 inches. I've seen 13. There's one on Fluminalis that's 13.
I think yours is.
I think it might be over the top.
A little over 11 years.
I think so. Yeah, that amethyst one. I think so.
The amethyst
yeah.
one, and then your other one.
Yeah, there's another one that's very similar to it. Doesn't have the stones on it.
Yeah.
I think that's over the top. Those French tulip chalices went pretty high. But there's one Italian chalice that belonged to a cardinal that on Fluminalis, and they say it's 13 inches.
Bishop Selway's is at least 12, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big one too. Yeah, the Italians, but the French are pretty good at it too. So anyway, that's 11 inches in height. Whose cups are so narrow that the fingers cannot touch the bottom of the interior of the cup, and you have to watch that with tulip style, which have no node midway between the base and the cup, and that should be the cup. So you need always a node. It's very important. If you just have if it looks like have a base and then just something straight, and then the cup, that's no good. It has to have a node. But be careful, some of them have nodes that are uncomfortable. Like that Hungarian Baroque that we have, I can't use that. I used to be able to, but when you're like this, and I get cramps in my fingers and I can't move them. So I can't use that. But that has an uncomfortable node because it's not fat enough. It has to be fat enough. Also, be careful of what is known as the Saint-Remy chalice, which is very nice and very expensive. It has the bowl, and then it has a node that's very close. And I think that would be very difficult to use because you can't really get your hand around it. See, when you have your hands like this, you're very limited about what you can grab. And it's very awkward when your hand is like this. Like the tabernacle key, turning the tabernacle key when your hand is like this. And so it's not the same thing. You can pick up a chalice very easily with your whole hand, but when you're like this, you can't. So if you're chalice hunting, make sure that the node is well placed and big enough. You're going to use it for a long, long time. The rubrics, with the exception of mentioning the parts of the chalice, namely the base, cup, and node, that should be, yes, the node, are silent in regard to its form and decoration. So that's up to you. The paten. It is fitting that the paten be made of the same material as that of the cup of the chalice, namely gold or silver, So if the chalice is silver, in most cases it'll be silver, or in rare cases it would be all gold, then it should be the same. The rubrics have not explicitly stated what material must be used. It is explicitly stated that the upper surface of the paten must be gold-plated. But very, very typically, the patens are also silver gold-plated. And at least the top part has to be gold-plated, no matter what. Occasionally you see steel chalices, steel patens, but I don't use them. This seems kind of cheap. So, but always look on, the British have their own, like a series of crowns. But you don't see too many British chalices because they're mostly Anglicans. But you could use an Anglican chalice. I mean, if you fix it upright with the gold inside. They have their own sterling things, and the American chalices will be stamped sterling, and the patents too will be stamped sterling. We have a Russian chalice too, made in 1795 in Russia, and it has Russian writing on it, and also the Russian stamps. That's a nice chalice. So the paten should be round and the upper surface slightly concave. That means the way you see them. A little depression with a diameter somewhat less than that of the cup of the chalice may be made in its upper surface. So some of them you see, it's like a saucer. It has a little depression in it. I personally don't like those because, again, moving the host out from those, especially if they're rather deep, is very difficult because you have a host that is in two pieces and you have to get that out sort of in one piece so that it comes out, both pieces are together and you're holding it like that. To get that out without using your other fingers is very difficult. So I just like this smooth, just as a, but that's typical 19th century French paten with the little dip in it. He says this has a twofold advantage, namely that it keeps the paten on the chalice, that's true, and the host in place on the paten, that's true, but it keeps it in place a little bit too much. Right? And that's Martinucci who says all that, and van der Stappen, BDS. No decoration is prescribed for the paten. It should be plain on the upper surface so that no particles adhere. So the bottom can be very well decorated. The upper surface should be plain. Consecration of the chalice and paten. The chalice and paten must be consecrated by the bishop or by one who has delegated faculties. They lose their consecration. I think any priest could do it because the bishop always means the bishop of the diocese. So he would have to delegate even his auxiliaries to do it. See, he is the only one that has the power properly, or the authorization properly to do it. So I don't think it matters whether I do it or a priest does it, but I'm happy to do it if you want me to do it. Yes?
You're actually in a situation where you are in a place, well, not actually you because you are already a bishop, but priest, he's in a place, and then the only bishop that he has around is a resistance bishop. Is reasonable, like as he himself consecrated the chalice, we'll talk to this Unapun bishop.
No, I don't think that would be appropriate. I mean, I don't think the necessity is so strong that, because again, he doesn't have any more title to epikeia than you do. See, I mean, without the delegation of the ordinary, you're in epikeia land. All right.
Your Excellency? Do we, the consecration of an altar stone, that would be by a bishop? Yes. Now,
That may, I don't know. I don't think that was ever delegated to priests.
yes. So, and you were saying that this power of consecrating chalices could be delegated to priests, or it was?
I don't know.
Yes, I only asked because there's reminding me of there's a passage in St. Thomas where he talks about the bishop's powers and how obviously when it comes to the Eucharist, the bishop and the priest have the same power. But then he talks about so to speak, the ordering of the faithful towards divine worship. There's certain power that the bishop has in virtue of consecration.
Always the bishop of the diocese. When you see episcopus, it's not the auxiliaries or without jurisdiction. So really, the only thing a bishop without jurisdiction can do is what pertains to the power, the sacramental power of a bishop.
Yes.
But nothing about ordering the faithful.
No, in the sense of, for example, confirmation. Obviously, a bishop has that by virtue of ordination. I think that's more what he was talking about in that passage. But also consecrations, and it seems that he also meant preparing the sacred vessels so that they're by consecrating them. So.
Yes, but don't forget that the idea of auxiliary bishops didn't exist at his time.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, there's no record of that. That's a more recent thing.
I didn't know that.
Well, the dioceses were much smaller.
Yes.
You know, you couldn't get around. You know, you didn't get in your car and drive 60 miles an hour. So those dioceses in Europe were very small. Italy, they were tiny. You know, it was like a big parish. So, and now in France, they reduced the number of dioceses in the Revolution and made them in accordance with the departments.
Actually, now that you've said that, no, that I forgot about that. They would often, I mean, even the notion of a parish priest, that was at least in the early church, that was a later development. Everyone would have to go to the city in order to have mass, and then eventually you had the local priest.
Yes. Right.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so, I mean, that you'd have to research an awful lot of that.
Yes.
But ultimately, the bishop of the diocese has control over all of the liturgical acts in the whole diocese and all of the things that pertain to them, like the vestments, the chalices, and everything like that. But he can delegate to whoever he pleases. Only the Pope can delegate a priest to confirm. And without that, it's invalid. Non-bishops gave minor orders during the Middle Ages by indult. Abbots, they're not bishops, only priests, but not major orders. Okay, consecration. Okay, they lose their consecration when they are so damaged or broken that they are no longer fit to serve their purpose, or have been put to improper use. Some, drinking at a party or something like that, or have been placed on sale, public sale, not private sale. Public sale. So you can sell your chalice to Father so and so, and it's a private sale that does not in any way affect the consecration. But what you see on eBay and Luminalis, those are all, they've lost it. If they have only been replated, they need not be reconsecrated. Yeah.
Your Excellency, is it a sin to put a chalice to improper use?
Oh, absolutely. It's a sacred thing. Oh, absolutely. It's a consecrated vessel.
Well, earlier you mentioned the brass chalices that shouldn't have been made or consecrated. So the only thing you can do is to get rid of it, dispose of it?
Well, again, I don't know the legislation. So, but I don't think those things would exist unless the legislation had changed. So so you'd have to research that. Maybe in the American Ecclesiastical Review you might see something like that in the 50s. So the only thing to do is to, well, as I said, you can drill a hole in the I've seen that. That means it's useless for what it is. So therefore, it's a secularized thing. But you shouldn't throw them in the trash because people might get the wrong impression. There's a chalice in the trash. You should dispose of them in a way that would be more fitting.
Can you melt it?
Sure. I mean, it just becomes a secular object once it loses its consecration. Number 158, the spoon or cochlear. This is also known as the scroop spoon. Yes.
Have you ever used the scroop spoon you're influencing?
Only one is presented to me.
Yeah.
Ordinarily I don't, but sometimes you just get it, So it's all right, and some people like it. Father Bishop, please use it. Somebody else,
Father Orosh, Father to say.
Yeah, they use it, okay. So it doesn't matter. You have to put enough wine in. See, if you put just a little bit of wine in, you might want to use that. But if you use a significant amount of wine, you would have to dilute it, some say by 50%, some say by 40%, in order to make it invalid. And that's quite a bit. So the little spoon or cochlear may be used at the offertory for the purpose of mixing a small quantity of water with the wine. This is fitting that it may be. It is fitting that it may be of the same material as that of the chalice and paten, so silver. When preparing the chalice for mass, the spoon should be placed on the purificator and not in the cup of the chalice, so not hanging off the cup. Scratching the interior of the cup is thus avoided. That's van der Stappen. The purificator must be linen. No other material is allowed. Its size, according to Martinucci, now get this, should not be less than 18 inches in length and breadth. That means a square. 18 inches. That's like the purificator that ate New York. And that's almost like a corporal. I don't know where he gets that. That's just his opinion. That's nothing. It's Martinucci, although he's probably the best of all of them. A small cross may be stitched in the middle of the purificator in order to distinguish it from the finger towel. That's Ephemerides Liturgicae. That was like a magazine. And I don't know what the authority of it is, but an ephemerides means a type of magazine. Colored thread should not be used, so you shouldn't have red. Well, that's EL, so that's what they say. The ends of the purificator may be ornamented with needlework or lace, so that would also be in white, though. You see that. You do see purificators. Some of them, sometimes you see them in blue, but I think that's probably not correct. The purificator should not be blessed. Oddly, you think of all the things that should be blessed would be the purificator. But it should not be blessed. SRC. I don't know why. The corporal must be linen. No other material will do. That's SRC. The corporal should be about 50 centimeters, 20 inches square. But that could vary according to necessity either way. In other words, sometimes you need a real big one if you have a lot of ciboria. A mass where you're distributing a lot of people, distributing to a lot of people. Or a small one, like when you're traveling and when you have a small chalice. And so but that's approximately correct. The edges of the corporal may be ornamented with lace. So it could have lace around the edge. And a white cross may be stitched in the front fold. but I don't think it should have any stitching, in my opinion, because you have to scrape it with the paten looking for particles, and if the paten bumps the embroidery, I mean, then what's the purpose of it? It makes for problems. It's better if it's just flat. Sometimes you see a little red cross there, but it doesn't need to have it. A white cross. Then you have the how to fold the corporal. So you go 1 in the back, 2, all right, and then this and this. Many times corporals are folded wrong. You know, when you should have the mountains in the front when you unfold it. Looking at it sideways, that is a correctly folded corporal. When you see this, that means the ironer or the sacristan has blown it. All right. So as soon as you unfold it, you know right away. So 1, 2, that. That's the. So you have to get used to it. Sometimes the ironer and the sacristan are one and the same. So place the corporal in the burse so that the edge of fold number 6 is toward the aperture of the burse. The corporal must not be left unfolded on the altar during the entire Mass, and it must always be carried in the burse. The pall. The pall must be made of linen and from no other material. This rule applies to the material of the undersurface. Now, there's a lot of palls, you have to watch this, that are made with very nice decoration on the top and linen on the bottom. Very nice, but you can't wash them. So you have to have some way of washing a pall, because it actually very often it has precious blood that it is because of drops and whatnot. I see you drink from the chalice and you put the pall on it, so there could be some precious blood right on the edge of the chalice. So those things are useless. They're expensive and people buy them for you. You know, Father, we got you a beautiful ordination present. They're useless. You can't use them. You could use them once and then burn them. So the best is what you see is where a piece of better plastic, it goes into it and then you pull it out. Cardboard could be porous and could actually absorb some of the precious blood. So I don't think cardboard is ideal. I think the plastic is better. And so you push it in and so then you take it out and wash it and push it back in after you washed it. I think that's the most practical thing. Pall has no mystical significance. It's to keep the flies out. So especially in hot climates, the flies, the fruit flies love that stuff. They like to get in there and all these flies are going on. All right. In the De Defectibus, we'll see what happens when the fly gets into the precious blood. Yes.
If you do notice some of the precious blood on the underside, should it be purified immediately before using it?
Not necessarily, because it is no longer the sacrament after it dries. It has to be recognizable as wine.
Okay. Interesting.
All right. Outside of Rome, it is customary to use a pall which is large enough to cover the paten. And it's true, sometimes in Europe you get these palls that are practically the size of this. And then the chalice veil is a mess. Everything's a mess. It's better to have one that's a little bigger than the paten. The edges of the pall may be ornamented with lace. The upper surface of the pall may be silk, gold, or silver cloth and beautifully stitched. The lower surface of the pall must always be linen and should be made so that it can be removed and washed. Another way to do that is to sort of have, well, you could just cut the bottom off and then restitch it on. I mean, but that's a lot of work. Or some sort of button situation or snap, or there's all sorts of ways you can do it, but somehow or other, that thing, that part that touches the top of the chalice must be removable. So be careful of that, because as I've told you, there's a lot of palls that are available that are really useless. They're beautiful, but they're useless. Now maybe you could alter them in such a way to make them useful.